Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom surrounded by silver rivers and forests that glittered under the moon, there stood a great palace made of white stone and gold towers. Inside that palace lived 12 beautiful princesses, each one as lovely as a sunrise and graceful as the wind. Every morning, the maids would knock on their doors with fresh flowers and breakfast trays. But when the doors opened, there was always the same strange sight: 12 pairs of silk shoes completely torn and worn out. The king, their father, was troubled and confused. The guards swore no one had entered or left. The windows were sealed shut. The doors were locked from the inside. And yet, every night, the shoes were ruined, as if the princesses had danced until morning. The king called his daughters to the throne room. "My dear children," he said gently, "tell me what happens each night. Why are your shoes destroyed?" The eldest princess bowed her head. "Father, we do not know. Perhaps the shoes are weak." The others giggled softly, pretending not to understand. But behind their sweet smiles, a secret glimmered in their eyes. The king frowned. He called his advisors, wise men, and even magicians. But no one could solve the mystery. So at last, the king made a royal announcement that echoed across the land. "Whoever discovers the secret of my 12 daughters shall marry one of them and share half my kingdom. But if he fails after 3 nights, he must leave the palace forever." Princes came from distant kingdoms, tall, proud, and brave. They each spent 3 nights watching the princess's room. Yet every morning, when the sun rose, the shoes were worn through again. Each prince shook his head in shame as he left the palace. "They must be bewitched," they whispered. "No man can solve this." The king grew old with worry. "If no one discovers the truth," he said sadly, "I fear my daughters will be lost to magic forever." One day, a young soldier came marching down the forest path toward the palace gates. His clothes were torn from war, and his boots were covered in dust. But his eyes were kind and full of courage. He had heard about the king's challenge and thought, "Maybe I can help." As he walked through the forest, the wind grew colder, and the trees whispered like voices. Suddenly, he saw an old woman sitting on a stone, her cloak shimmering faintly under the light. "Good evening, young man," she said, smiling with eyes that seemed to know everything. "Where are you going?" The soldier bowed politely. "To the king's palace. I wish to solve the mystery of the 12 princesses." The old woman nodded slowly. "I see. Many have tried, and all have failed. But you seem different." She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small bundle of silver cloth. "Take this," she whispered. "It's a magic cloak. When you wear it, no one can see you. But be careful. What you will see beneath the palace is full of wonder and danger. Do not speak and do not be tricked." The soldier took the cloak, amazed. "Thank you, kind lady," he said. But before he could ask her name, she was gone, as if she had turned into mist. That evening, the soldier arrived at the grand palace. The golden gates opened for him, and the guards led him to the throne room. The king looked him over and frowned. "You are no prince," he said. "Why should I trust you with my daughters?" The soldier bowed. "Your Majesty, I may not be rich, but I am honest and brave. Let me try." After a long moment, the king nodded. "Very well. Watch them for 3 nights. If you discover their secret, you shall have your reward. But if you fail, you must leave forever." That night, the soldier was given a small room next to the princess's chamber. He sat quietly, pretending to rest, while the moon climbed high into the sky. At midnight, he heard soft laughter and the rustling of silk gowns. Curious, he peeked through a crack in the door. The eldest princess whispered, "Sisters, it's time." The youngest trembled. "Oh, what if the soldier wakes and sees us?" The eldest smiled. "Don't worry. He's fast asleep, like all the others." Then she clapped her hands, and suddenly something magical happened. The floor beneath her bed began to move. A hidden door opened, revealing a staircase that led down into the dark earth. One by one, the princesses lifted their gowns and stepped into the glowing tunnel below, their jewels sparkling like stars. The soldier's heart beat fast. A secret passage. He quickly threw on the invisible cloak the old woman had given him and followed them silently down the stairs. The air grew cool and sweet, filled with the scent of flowers. Strange lights flickered on the walls. And as the soldier crept after them, he began to hear something, the faint sound of music far below. He followed the princesses deeper and deeper, not knowing that he was about to uncover a secret that would change his life forever. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom surrounded by silver rivers and forests that glittered under the moon, there stood a great palace made of white stone and gold towers. Inside that palace lived 12 beautiful princesses, each one as lovely as a sunrise and graceful as the wind. Every morning, the maids would knock on their doors with fresh flowers and breakfast trays. But when the doors opened, there was always the same strange sight: 12 pairs of silk shoes completely torn and worn out. The king, their father, was troubled and confused. The guards swore no one had entered or left. The windows were sealed shut. The doors were locked from the inside. And yet, every night, the shoes were ruined, as if the princesses had danced until morning. The king called his daughters to the throne room. "My dear children," he said gently, "tell me what happens each night. Why are your shoes destroyed?" The eldest princess bowed her head. "Father, we do not know. Perhaps the shoes are weak." The others giggled softly, pretending not to understand. But behind their sweet smiles, a secret glimmered in their eyes. The king frowned. He called his advisors, wise men, and even magicians. But no one could solve the mystery. So at last, the king made a royal announcement that echoed across the land. "Whoever discovers the secret of my 12 daughters shall marry one of them and share half my kingdom. But if he fails after 3 nights, he must leave the palace forever." Princes came from distant kingdoms, tall, proud, and brave. They each spent 3 nights watching the princess's room. Yet every morning, when the sun rose, the shoes were worn through again. Each prince shook his head in shame as he left the palace. "They must be bewitched," they whispered. "No man can solve this." The king grew old with worry. "If no one discovers the truth," he said sadly, "I fear my daughters will be lost to magic forever." One day, a young soldier came marching down the forest path toward the palace gates. His clothes were torn from war, and his boots were covered in dust. But his eyes were kind and full of courage. He had heard about the king's challenge and thought, "Maybe I can help." As he walked through the forest, the wind grew colder, and the trees whispered like voices. Suddenly, he saw an old woman sitting on a stone, her cloak shimmering faintly under the light. "Good evening, young man," she said, smiling with eyes that seemed to know everything. "Where are you going?" The soldier bowed politely. "To the king's palace. I wish to solve the mystery of the 12 princesses." The old woman nodded slowly. "I see. Many have tried, and all have failed. But you seem different." She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small bundle of silver cloth. "Take this," she whispered. "It's a magic cloak. When you wear it, no one can see you. But be careful. What you will see beneath the palace is full of wonder and danger. Do not speak and do not be tricked." The soldier took the cloak, amazed. "Thank you, kind lady," he said. But before he could ask her name, she was gone, as if she had turned into mist. That evening, the soldier arrived at the grand palace. The golden gates opened for him, and the guards led him to the throne room. The king looked him over and frowned. "You are no prince," he said. "Why should I trust you with my daughters?" The soldier bowed. "Your Majesty, I may not be rich, but I am honest and brave. Let me try." After a long moment, the king nodded. "Very well. Watch them for 3 nights. If you discover their secret, you shall have your reward. But if you fail, you must leave forever." That night, the soldier was given a small room next to the princess's chamber. He sat quietly, pretending to rest, while the moon climbed high into the sky. At midnight, he heard soft laughter and the rustling of silk gowns. Curious, he peeked through a crack in the door. The eldest princess whispered, "Sisters, it's time." The youngest trembled. "Oh, what if the soldier wakes and sees us?" The eldest smiled. "Don't worry. He's fast asleep, like all the others." Then she clapped her hands, and suddenly something magical happened. The floor beneath her bed began to move. A hidden door opened, revealing a staircase that led down into the dark earth. One by one, the princesses lifted their gowns and stepped into the glowing tunnel below, their jewels sparkling like stars. The soldier's heart beat fast. A secret passage. He quickly threw on the invisible cloak the old woman had given him and followed them silently down the stairs. The air grew cool and sweet, filled with the scent of flowers. Strange lights flickered on the walls. And as the soldier crept after them, he began to hear something, the faint sound of music far below. He followed the princesses deeper and deeper, not knowing that he was about to uncover a secret that would change his life forever. The next evening, the palace shone beneath a blanket of soft starlight. Everything looked peaceful, the golden halls, the silent guards, and the tall towers that touched the clouds. But deep inside, one man could not rest. The soldier lay awake in his small room, staring at the flickering candle beside him. He could still hear the faint sound of music echoing in his mind, the laughter of the 12 princesses, the glitter of their gowns, and the shining lake that lived below the palace floor. He whispered to himself, "One night was not enough. I must see more. Something strange hides beneath that beauty." When the clock struck midnight, the soldier quietly rose again, wrapped himself in the magic cloak, and tiptoed to the princess's door. Inside, he saw the 12 sisters sitting on their beds, pretending to be asleep. As soon as the clock chimed its last note, the eldest princess, her name was Alara, smiled slyly and said, "Sisters, the time has come. Let's go dance again before the moon fades." The youngest sister, Lena, looked a little afraid. "Alara," she whispered, "what if someone follows us? I had a dream. A shadow moved behind us on the lake." Alara laughed softly. "You worry too much, little one. No one can find us. The guards sleep, the doors are locked, and even the stars keep our secret." But the soldier, invisible and quiet, followed closely as Alara touched a hidden button near her bedpost. The floor began to glow with silver light, and once again, a secret staircase opened before them, leading deep into the earth. As they descended, the soldier's heart pounded faster. The silver grove shimmered, the golden trees sparkled, and the diamond leaves cast tiny rainbows on the ground. Everything looked the same, yet something in the air felt different tonight. The wind below was colder, and the lake ahead seemed darker. When they reached the boats, the princes were waiting again, but their smiles were not as bright. Their eyes glowed faintly like reflections of the moon, and their voices echoed too softly. The soldier hid in the last boat once more, crouching behind a golden shield. The youngest prince guiding the boat said quietly, "The air feels heavy tonight. The light from the palace grows weaker." The eldest princess frowned. "The world above doesn't matter. We belong here under the stars of our secret realm." The prince bowed, saying nothing. As they reached the crystal palace, it looked grander than ever. Chandeliers floated like comets, and the music began even before they entered. The floor sparkled like ice, and magical flowers bloomed from the walls. The soldier stepped inside behind them, and this time he looked more carefully. He noticed that every time the princesses danced, the crystals on the floor grew dimmer, as if their light was being pulled away. And the princes, they never laughed. They danced like figures made of mist, their faces calm but empty, their steps perfect but cold. The soldier's heart sank. "This is not a normal dance," he thought. "It feels like the magic itself is feeding on them." He moved closer to one of the pillars and saw faint carvings on it, ancient symbols glowing blue. He brushed away some dust and whispered, "These are warning signs from long ago." Suddenly, a low, whispering voice floated through the hall, soft but clear. "Leave this place before the third night, or the spell will claim you too." The soldier froze. He looked around, but no one seemed to hear the voice. The princesses kept dancing, lost in the rhythm of the enchanted music. Only Lena, the youngest, paused. Her eyes darted around nervously. She felt something cold brush her arm, though no one was there. "Alara," she whispered again, trembling. "I feel someone near us." Her sister smiled, but didn't stop dancing. "It's just your imagination." But the soldier could see it now, faint shadows forming at the corners of the ballroom, growing darker with every step. They swirled like smoke around the princess's feet. He took a step back, clutching the golden twig in his pocket. I must tell the king soon, he thought. One more night, and this secret could destroy them all. When the music finally stopped, the princesses, exhausted, slipped off their broken shoes and returned to the boats. Their faces looked pale, their laughter softer. The lake's glow was dim, like a candle nearly out. As they reached the staircase and climbed back toward their room, Lena looked behind her one last time. For a moment, she thought she saw two glowing eyes staring from the lake's surface. Then the water rippled, and they were gone. The soldier followed silently, heart heavy. When the princesses lay down to sleep, their silver crowns shimmered faintly, almost as if they were breathing. The soldier returned to his small room and sat by the window till dawn, watching the sunrise. The birds sang, the sea breeze blew gently, but his heart felt uneasy. He had seen beauty and wonder, but also something dark beneath it. The third night came quietly. The stars above the palace were hidden behind gray clouds, and a strange wind howled across the hills. Inside the grand castle, every candle flickered as if it too could sense something was about to change. The soldier sat by his window, holding the silver, golden, and diamond twigs he had collected. Their glow was fading, almost as if the magic that lived in them was dying little by little. He could not sleep. He kept hearing that whisper from the crystal hall, "Leave before the third night." But his heart told him he could not turn away now. He had promised himself he would learn the truth, no matter how deep or dark it was. When midnight came, the 12 princesses once again sat up in their beds. The eldest, Elara, brushed her golden hair and smiled proudly. "Sisters," she said softly, "tonight we dance until dawn. After this, the gates of our secret world will close for 100 years. The others gasped softly in surprise. Only Lena, the youngest, looked frightened. "Elara, maybe we should stop. I had another dream. This time, I saw shadows dancing without faces." But Elara only laughed. "Dreams are just dreams, little one. The princes are waiting." The soldier followed them again, wrapping himself tightly in the cloak of invisibility. The floor opened with a sigh, and the silver light spilled out once more. Down they went, step after step, until the groves appeared before them. But tonight, something was wrong. The silver trees had turned gray. The golden trees were dim. The diamond leaves were cracked and dull. Even the glowing lake seemed restless, its waves whispering like voices. The soldier's heart pounded. This magic, it's fading. Or worse, it's being drained. When they reached the shore, the 12 princes were already waiting. But they did not look as handsome or cheerful as before. Their armor had turned darker, and their smiles had vanished. Their eyes glowed faintly red, and mist rose from their feet. The soldier hid in the shadows, watching closely. The eldest prince bowed to Elara and said in a deep voice, "This is the final dance, my princess. When the morning comes, the curse will be complete." Elara frowned slightly. "Curse? What do you mean?" But before the prince could answer, the others began to play their instruments, haunting, beautiful music that filled the air with both joy and sadness. The princesses stepped into the boats, and the lake shimmered with strange colors, blue, violet, crimson. The water looked alive, as if it carried the heartbeat of the hidden world. The soldier followed into the last boat again, but this time he could feel the cold. His hands trembled slightly, and his breath formed mist in the air. When they reached the crystal palace, it was darker than before. The chandeliers still floated, but their flames were faint and blue. The walls no longer sparkled. They pulsed like they were alive. The soldier stepped quietly behind a golden column and listened. The eldest prince approached Elara and took her hand. His voice was sad now, almost human. "Do you not see, my princess? We are not men of flesh and bone. We are shadows, spirits bound to this dance by the greed of your ancestors. Only when the last dance is done will we be free." Elara's eyes widened. "Free? You mean all this time we've been helping the curse?" He nodded slowly. Each night you danced, our world fed on your life's light. Your shoes wore thin because the magic took your strength. Tonight is the last. After this, both your world and ours will fade. The princesses gasped. Lena clutched her sister's arm. Ilara, let's go back. Please. But before they could move, the music swelled louder, faster. The floor beneath them began to glow and crack. Shadows crawled up from the ground, taking shape around the dancers. The princes' faces blurred, their eyes hollowing into darkness. The soldier's heart raced. He had seen enough. He ran to the side of the hall and grabbed a glowing crystal goblet from a golden table. He filled it with water from a lake that flowed through the palace floor. Its glow flickered like a dying star. This will prove everything, he whispered. The king must know before it's too late. But as he turned to leave, the voice from before echoed again, louder and clearer. Beware, mortal. You carry the light of our world. Do not let it touch the sun. The soldier clutched the goblet tightly, backing away. Ilara turned, her eyes wide. She could sense something unseen. Who's there? She called out. Who watches us? The soldier stepped back quietly, but his foot brushed against a fallen rose petal, and it made the tiniest sound. All at once, the music stopped. The princes turned their heads sharply toward the noise. The entire room fell silent. For a long, dreadful second, no one moved. Then the eldest prince's voice thundered. Someone is here. The soldier's heart leapt. He pulled the cloak tight and ran toward the door, his footsteps echoing softly behind him. The floor cracked where he stepped, and dark mist chased him like fingers reaching out of the earth. He ran through the groves, through the fading lights of gold and silver, up the twisting stairway that glowed faintly with magic. Behind him, he could still hear the distant voice of the eldest prince, part sorrow, part anger. The truth will break the spell, but only if you dare to speak it. At last, the soldier burst into the upper world. The palace was silent, the dawn just beginning to glow. He looked down at the goblet. The light inside flickered, then dimmed. He had escaped, but he knew the story was far from over. The morning sun rose slowly over the kingdom, turning the palace towers gold and pink. Birds sang on the windowsills, and the waves of the river sparkled like diamonds in the light. To anyone looking, the day seemed peaceful, but inside the palace, the soldier's heart was heavy. He sat alone in a small garden at the back of the castle, the silver goblet hidden beneath his cloak. Inside it, the shimmering water from the underground lake still glowed faintly, blue and white like a trapped star. He whispered to himself, that world below, it's fading. And if I stay silent, it might swallow this one too. All around him, the palace was waking. Servants rushed about, guards changed their posts, and the king prepared for another day of disappointment. For many nights now, no one had solved the mystery of the 12 dancing princesses. The king's hair had turned gray from worry, and his voice had lost its cheer. The soldier took a deep breath. It's time. He walked toward the throne room. His boots echoed softly against the marble floor as he entered the great hall where the king sat, wearing a crown of gold, but a face full of sadness. When the king saw him, he frowned. You are the poor soldier who asked to stay here, are you not? Do you come with an answer to my curse, or will you fail like the others? The soldier bowed deeply. Your Majesty, I have seen what no man has seen before. I know why your daughter's shoes are worn every morning. The king's eyes sharpened with hope and suspicion. You do? Speak then. But beware, many before you have told false tales. If your story proves untrue, you will lose more than your honor. The soldier nodded calmly. I understand, your Majesty, but first let me bring proof. He stepped forward and placed the silver goblet before the throne. The glowing water shimmered in the sunlight, sending dancing lights across the hall. Gasps filled the room. No one had ever seen such a thing. This, said the soldier, is water from a hidden lake deep beneath the palace. Every night, your daughters go there to dance with 12 shadow princes, bound by an ancient spell. I followed them 3 times. They do not know the truth of what they do, but the magic is growing weaker. The world below is dying, and if the dancing continues, it may pull your daughters down forever." The king stood slowly, his eyes wide. "A hidden world beneath my palace? Cursed princes? Such a tale is hard to believe." The soldier smiled faintly and reached into his coat. He drew out the 3 twigs, 1 silver, 1 gold, and 1 diamond, and laid them beside the goblet. They glowed gently in the light. "I brought these from the 3 groves your daughters pass through each night," he said. "The same groves that guard the lake and the crystal palace. If you doubt me, question your daughters tomorrow morning. But tonight, I beg you, do not let them go below again." The king stared at the proof before him, silent for a long time. The goblet glowed like a captured moon. The twigs shimmered with quiet beauty. Yet still, his heart was unsure. "How can I trust the word of a poor soldier?" he asked finally. "If you speak the truth, then tomorrow will prove it. But if this is a trick, the punishment will be death." The soldier bowed again, his voice calm. "So be it, your majesty. I ask no reward, only that you protect your daughters." The king nodded gravely. "Then we shall see. Tonight, I will send my guards to watch their chamber. And you will stay by my side. If their shoes are worn again by morning, I will know your words are true." That night, the moon rose pale and cold. The princesses sat in their room, as usual, pretending to sleep. But as the hours passed, the eldest, Ilara, grew restless. "Sisters," she whispered, "why does father guard us tonight? The air feels strange. The path below calls to me." The youngest, Lena, shook her head. "Please, Ilara, let's not go again. Something terrible will happen if we do." But Ilara only smiled sadly. "We cannot stop now. Tonight is the last dance." She touched the secret spot on her bedpost, and once again the floor began to glow. But this time, the soldier and the king were watching through a small hidden window in the wall. The king's eyes widened in shock as the 12 princesses stepped into the glowing passage. "By the heavens," he whispered, "it's true." The soldier nodded quietly. "Yes, your majesty. But the third night's magic is dangerous. We must stop them before the curse is complete." The king gripped his sword, but the soldier held up his hand. "Wait. If we rush in now, the spell might break the wrong way. Let me go alone. I will return them safely." The king hesitated, then nodded. "Go, brave soldier. If you save my daughters, you will have not half my kingdom, but my eternal gratitude." The soldier bowed once more and disappeared into the glowing stairs, wrapping the cloak around himself. Below the earth, the 12 princesses walked in silence. The groves were darker now, their silver and gold dull, their diamond leaves cracked. The lake rippled with strange black mist. As they stepped into the boats, the eldest prince appeared again, his eyes hollow but full of sorrow. "Why have you come, my princesses?" he said softly. "The curse ends tonight. The dance cannot be stopped." Ilara trembled, but said, "We must finish what our ancestors began. We cannot break the chain." The soldier stood nearby, hidden, his heart heavy. "They don't know they're part of a curse," he thought. "They think it's destiny." He looked toward the crystal palace in the distance, and this time its towers were cracked and falling. The third night had begun, and by dawn, everything would change. The air in the underground world felt different that night, heavy, trembling, and alive with sorrow. The soldier could feel the trembling of the stone under his feet as he crept silently through the last silver grove. The shimmering leaves had turned dull gray, and the golden trees had begun to lose their glow. Even the diamond branches cracked softly, like glass under too much weight. It was as if the world below the palace was dying. Ahead, the 12 princesses moved slowly toward the lake. Their silken gowns brushed the ground, their crowns glimmering faintly beneath the fading light. The eldest, Princess Ilara, led them, her face pale but determined. The youngest, Princess Lena, clutched her hand nervously. "Ilara," Lena whispered, her voice shaking. "Something feels wrong. The air, it's cold like never before." Ilara didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the dark waters ahead, a lake that no longer shone with silver light, but instead reflected stormy clouds and deep shadows. On the other side of the lake, the crystal palace loomed tall and strange. Its towers were cracked, its bridge broken in half. The once golden gates were now blackened, and the soft music that used to echo from its halls had turned slow and sorrowful, like a lullaby sung by someone who knew their time was ending. From the mist, the 12 shadow princes appeared once again, tall, graceful, but ghostly pale. Their eyes, once filled with longing, now carried sadness. They bowed silently as the princesses stepped into the boats. The soldier, still invisible beneath his cloak, followed them into one of the boats, sitting quietly behind the youngest princess. The oars touched the dark water, and ripples spread like silver lightning beneath them. As they moved closer to the crumbling palace, the eldest prince raised his head and spoke, his voice echoing softly through the underground world. "Tonight," he said, "is the final dance. The curse that binds us all will end, one way or another." Elara looked at him, confused. "The final dance? What do you mean?" He turned to her sadly. "Many generations ago, your ancestors bound this place with a spell, a promise that as long as the princesses danced, this hidden world would live. But every spell has a cost. When the last dance ends, either your world will fall into darkness or ours will vanish forever." Lena gasped, tears filling her eyes. "No, that can't be true." The soldier's heart ached as he listened. He now understood the truth. The princesses were never part of a wicked game. They had been protecting their kingdom without even knowing it, their nightly dance feeding life to a world trapped below. But now both worlds were breaking. The boats reached the shore, and the great doors of the crystal palace swung open. Inside, the ballroom was filled with shadows and soft, glowing dust. The marble floor reflected their faces like water, and the ceiling shimmered faintly with stars that were slowly going out. The princes offered their hands. The music began, slow, haunting, and beautiful. Elara hesitated for a moment, but then, with tears in her eyes, began to dance. The others followed, their skirts swirling like flower petals caught in a storm. The soldier stood at the edge of the hall, his invisible cloak fluttering in the strange wind. The floor began to crack beneath the dancers' feet, and each note of the music sent shivers through the palace. He knew what he had to do. The old woman's warning echoed in his mind. What you will see beneath the palace is not meant for human eyes. But if you wish to save them, break the chain of the dance. He stepped forward, pulling the silver goblet from his coat. It still glowed faintly, carrying the pure light of the lake before it darkened. He raised it high and shouted, his voice ringing across the hall. "Stop, princesses. You are not bound by this curse. You are its key." The music faltered. The princesses froze mid-step. The shadow princes turned sharply toward the voice, their eyes wide. Elara's voice trembled. "Who's there?" The soldier pulled away his cloak, and in an instant he was visible. The cloak fell like a whisper to the floor, revealing his worn uniform and the glow of the goblet in his hand. "I followed you," he said gently. "I saw the truth. Your dance keeps this cursed place alive, but it's stealing your world's light. You must stop, or the darkness will rise to the palace above." The eldest prince's voice echoed across the hall. "If they stop, we will fade forever." The soldier turned to him. "Then let it be so. The world of light must live." The walls of the palace began to tremble. Cracks spread across the ceiling, and the lake outside roared like thunder. The princesses screamed as the floor split beneath them. Elara reached toward the soldier, tears streaming down her face. "If we stop, what will happen to you?" He smiled faintly. "I will be where I'm meant to be, wherever courage and kindness belong." He poured the glowing water from the goblet onto the floor. It spilled like light itself, rushing into the cracks and spreading across the palace. The shadow princes bowed their heads, their forms fading into mist. "Thank you," the eldest prince whispered. "You have set us free." And then, the crystal palace shattered in a burst of silver light. When the soldier opened his eyes, he was lying in the palace garden above ground. The morning sun was shining, and the air smelled of roses and rain. The king, the princesses, and the guards surrounded him. Elara knelt beside him, tears of relief in her eyes. "Father," she said softly, It's over. The dream is gone. We're free." The king lifted the soldier's hand. "You saved my daughters and my kingdom. You shall have my greatest reward, not because I promised it, but because you deserve it." The soldier smiled weakly. "Your Majesty, I ask for nothing, only peace for your daughters and your land." The king nodded. "Then peace you shall have, brave soldier. Peace and honor forever." That night, the moon rose bright and whole over the palace. No doors glowed. No shoes were worn out. The princesses slept peacefully for the first time in years. And deep beneath the earth, where the crystal palace once stood, a single silver flower bloomed, glowing softly in the dark. It was said that the soldier's courage lived within it, forever lighting the shadows below. Many years passed after that fateful night, the night the crystal palace beneath the earth shattered into light, and the curse of the 12 dancing princesses was broken. The kingdom above flourished once more. Flowers bloomed brighter, rivers ran clearer, and the palace bells rang every morning with songs of joy. The air no longer trembled with hidden magic. Instead, it carried laughter, music, and peace. The king kept his promise. The soldier, once a wanderer with nothing but courage in his heart, was now called Sir Rowan, the brave of the silver flower. He lived not as a prince nor a ruler, but as a guardian of the royal gardens, tending to the earth with gentle hands. He said he had seen enough of magic and shadow, and all he wanted now was sunlight, peace, and kindness. But the world had not forgotten him. Each spring, the people gathered outside the palace gates to celebrate the Festival of Light, in memory of the night the curse was broken. Children danced in circles wearing silver crowns, their shoes sparkling with glitter, pretending to be the 12 princesses. The bards sang songs of the soldier who had followed them into the world below, facing shadow and danger to bring back the dawn. Yet there was one secret that only the princesses knew. Beneath the oldest oak tree in the royal garden, where the soldier first woke up after the curse ended, a single silver flower had begun to bloom. Its petals shimmered even in darkness, and every night it glowed faintly, like a piece of moonlight caught in the shape of a blossom. Ilara, the eldest princess, often came to see it alone. She would kneel by the flower, her gown trailing in the grass, and whisper softly, "Thank you, brave soldier, thank you for giving us back our lives." Sometimes, when the wind was gentle, she could swear she heard a faint reply, a whisper like a sigh through the leaves. "Where courage and kindness dwell, I am there." As the years rolled by, the 12 princesses grew wiser and kinder. Each of them carried a mark of their magical past, a faint silver shimmer that glowed in their eyes whenever the moonlight touched them. They ruled their parts of the kingdom with grace, always remembering the lesson they had learned. Greed fades, but goodness grows forever. And the soldier? Sir Rowan grew old, but his heart never did. The children loved him dearly. They would gather around him as he sat beneath the oak tree and ask, "Tell us again, sir, about the world beneath the palace. Were there really crystal trees and silver lakes?" He would smile, his eyes crinkling like warm sunlight. "Aye, there were. But remember, little ones, even the brightest magic fades if there is no kindness to hold it. Always choose good over glory." When the seasons changed and the soldier grew too old to walk, the king built a beautiful bench beside the silver flower, so he could sit and watch it bloom every morning. One dawn, as the first rays of sunlight brushed the palace towers, the youngest princess, Lena, ran to the garden. She found Sir Rowan sitting quietly, his face peaceful, his hand resting beside the glowing flower. The breeze lifted his silver hair, and for a moment it looked like moonlight itself had taken human form. He had fallen into a gentle sleep, a sleep from which he would never wake. Lena wept softly, but as her tears fell upon the flower, something wondrous happened. The silver blossom began to glow brighter and brighter until its light spread across the garden, up the palace walls, and into the morning sky. All around the kingdom, people saw the light rise like dawn, pure, soft, and endless. And though they didn't know why, every heart felt warm and safe, as if touched by a blessing. From that day on, it was said that whenever someone acted bravely or kindly, A new silver flower would bloom somewhere in the kingdom. They called it the soldier's blessing. Cherry blossom. Years turned into generations. The 12 princesses became queens, and their daughters carried on their story. The kingdom grew into a land known far and wide for its peace, joy, and magic born from goodness. And deep beneath the ground, where once the crystal palace stood, a quiet light still shimmered, not of sorrow, but of eternal peace. At night, if you stood by the royal garden and listened closely, you might still hear laughter, the laughter of 12 sisters dancing freely beneath the moon, their shoes shining not from magic, but from happiness. And sometimes, if the moonlight touched the silver flower just right, a shadow appeared beside it, the shape of a young soldier, watching with a kind smile. He never truly left. He had simply become one with the light.